Good morning and a warm welcome to everybody. I welcome everybody to AIOC 2021, the 79th virtual conference. This is Hall Parson, and I'm your MOC, the Hall coordinator, Himay. I welcome all the doctors. So we are going to have the free papers, and may I now request our judges to please come online. And I introduce Dr. Darak Amrish Balkrishna. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning.
Dr. Elish Jain. Good morning. Dr. Anand, Dr. Siddharth Ghosh,
Good morning.
Dr. Suresh Pandey,
Good morning.
and Dr. Viral Shah.
Very good morning.
A warm welcome to all the judges. We are now starting with our free paper presentation, and may I request our judges to one by one introduce the presenters.
The first presenter is Dr. Padma Kurada, and she will be presenting the paper on enhanced intermediate vision with Eyhance intraocular lens implantation after cataract surgery.
So do we have Dr. Padma here with us? Dr. Padma.
Hello, I'm Dr. Madhukar Reddy. I'm the presenting author. So Dr. Padma Kurada is my co-author.
Okay.
Great. So we have Dr. Madhukar Reddy. Dr. Madhukar, if you can switch on your camera, yes. And can you share your screen so we can all go through that?
Yes, please.
So you can go full screen and you're good to go now. All the best, sir.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. And basically, all of us would like to give our patients both near and distance vision. And that would be what the patient expects also. But as we know that giving multifocal lenses have some disadvantages, basically nighttime glare, as well as in certain conditions, retinal conditions where the macula is not healthy. So in such conditions, when J&J had come out a couple of years back with this Eyhance lens, which they have changed the asphericity, we wanted to try out some lenses, and we wanted to share those results with our colleagues. So the purpose of this study was to evaluate the efficacy of Eyhance lenses, which Johnson & Johnson had come out with enhanced intermediate visual acuity, especially for computer users. And also this has the advantage of not having dysphotopsia at night. So the first 30 patients we have evaluated, and people with less than 1 diopter astigmatism were taken into consideration, and specifically they were asked about intermediate vision and night glare in the post-op follow-ups. Of the 30-odd patients, 1 was lost for follow-up, and 1 had a macular scar which we could not evaluate before surgery. And of the remaining 29 patients, majority were males, because most of the women candidates and those who don't drive, if the patient chooses, we give multifocal lenses. But typically people who drive at night, I would recommend these Eyhance lenses. The results were about 93% had 20/40 or better vision for distance. This is uncorrected. And 62% at N6 had N6 intermediate vision. At 60 centimeters, they were able to read a computer or the font on it comfortably. And about 38% had N8 to N10, means they did not have significant intermediate vision, which was correctable with glasses. Coming to near vision, surprisingly, about 60% had near vision, 41 had without correction, whereas 59% with correction, they had where they were seeing N6. So this was quite surprising, because after both eyes were done, a lot of patients were able to see even near vision, more than 50% comfortably. So these were sort of working more like a multifocal lenses also. So that was a pleasant surprise. And nighttime driving, they did not have any disturbing glare or halos. To conclude, especially patients who drive at night and who have demanding visual acuity, these are a good lenses for us to recommend to our patients. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, doctor, to finish the presentation on time. May I request the judges to please introduce the next speaker?
Good morning. The next speaker is Dr. Anurag Narula. Our presenting author is Dr. Astha, I think. She will be talking on effect of uncomplicated primary posterior continuous capsulorhexis on CME.
Good morning,
Dr.
everyone.
Astha,
Good morning,
yeah.
sir. Good morning, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, Dr. Asta, loud and clear.
Yes, yes.
You can run your presentation on full screen, ma'am, please.
Yeah, just a second.
Go on the slideshow option, madam.
Yes, sir.
On the top where you have home, insert, design, transitions, animations, and slideshow. You can take the cursor there and you can run the slideshow from beginning. Or you can, yes, you can go from the bottom as well. Can you see the slideshow where there's file, home, insert, etc.?
I'm not exactly getting these options, sir.
In that case, can you see on the right side bottom of your screen, there is something called as minus plus 65% and all written?
There is a slideshow at the bottom.
Dr. Asta,
Icon.
it's already there, slideshow on the top,
Slideshow is there
home, insert and design.
near your notes, comments. There is a logo just near the zoom button.
I'm not getting these
You,
options.
you stop sharing the screen, we will take the next presenter, you come again. Right, sir?
Okay.
Yes, so that we can do again then.
So you log in again after the next speaker.
Yes.
So the next speaker will be Dr. Khushbu Sheoren. Is she there? Yeah, Dr. Khushbu. She will be presenting her paper on surgically induced astigmatism after 2.2 and 2.8 clear corneal incision in phacoemulsification. Yeah,
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, you can start.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to present a study comparing surgically induced astigmatism after 2.2 mm and 2.8 mm clear corneal incisions in phacoemulsification. Cataract is a leading cause of visual impairment worldwide, and surgery is the primary treatment for its management. Phacoemulsification is modern extracapsular cataract extraction surgery with implantation of posterior chamber intraocular lens, and it leads to corneal topographic changes like corneal steepening and flattening depending on location and size of the incision. Surgically induced astigmatism is a flattening effect induced by the incision made on the cornea and determines the refractive outcome of the surgery. It is influenced by the preoperative astigmatism, incision size, location, architecture, corneal thickness, rigidity, and wound healing. Previous studies have shown that smaller incision sizes help in reducing the surgically induced astigmatism and provide a better refractive outcome. Our aim was to compare surgically induced astigmatism between 2.2 mm and 2.8 mm incisions among different grades of cataract and phacoemulsification surgery, and to compare and better understand the corneal topography, pachymetry changes, along with variability of elapsed phaco time. It was a randomized prospective interventional study, which was conducted after approval from Institutional Ethics Committee, and written and informed consent was taken prior to enrollment. 130 eyes of 130 patients having senile cataract were included, and they were randomly divided into two groups. Group 1 was operated with 2.2 mm incision and group 2 with 2.8 mm, and following was the exclusion criteria. Patients were examined pre-operatively and during follow-up at first, third, and sixth weeks. Corneal topography and pachymetry were evaluated using Pentacam. IOL power was calculated using LensStar 900. And all the patients underwent uncomplicated phacoemulsification surgery with foldable IOL implantation. Elapsed phaco time was recorded as displayed by the phaco machine. And surgically induced astigmatism was calculated using an online calculator available on drhill.com at first, third, and sixth week post-operatively. Both the groups had comparable baseline parameters. The mean surgically induced astigmatism was less in group 1 at all the follow-up visit, which was not statistically significant. And surgically induced astigmatism decreased from week 1 to week 6 in both the groups and increased with the increase in the hardness of cataract. There was no significant difference in post-operative K1 in both the groups. K2 value showed initial steepening at week 1 and then flattening occurred, which continued till week 6. The changes were significant at week 3 in group 2 and at week 6 in both the groups. Similarly, astigmatism showed an increase at week 1 in both the groups and then it decreased. The changes were significant at week 3 in group 2 and at week 6 in both the groups. Posterior keratometry value showed statistically significant steepening in the first post-operative week, followed by gradual flattening, which continued till 6 weeks. Posterior astigmatism increased in both the groups at week 1 and thereafter decreased and does not change significantly after 3 weeks. Elapsed phaco time increased with the increase in the hardness of cataract. Pachymetry differed significantly over first week in both the groups, where it increased due to increase in the corneal edema and decreased thereafter, stabilizing at 3 weeks. Conclusion, our study adds to the sparse literature on the effects of 2.2 mm and 2.8 mm clear corneal incision in phacoemulsification surgery on surgically induced astigmatism, keratometry, pachymetry, and elapsed phaco time. We observed that 2.2 mm incision induced a lesser amount of surgically induced astigmatism as compared to 2.8, but the difference was not statistically significant, and thus reducing the incision size from 2.8 to 2.8 did not have a significant effect. We also observed that posterior curvature changes and pachymetry get stabilized by 3 weeks post-operatively, but other parameters continue to stabilize by 6 weeks. So we recommend that spectacle prescription should ideally be given at 6 weeks. Thank you.
Thank you, doctor, for your presentation. May I request our judges?
Dr. Asta, are you ready now?
Dr. Asta, you need to unmute your mic and you can start the full screen.
Dr. Asta, you able to play your screen show? No? Yeah. Slideshow. Start your slideshow from the bottom.
मैम जहां आपने वो फाइल प्रेस किया था ना, फाइल से आगे ही एक स्लाइड शो लिखा हुआ है मैम, धीरे धीरे आप कर्सर आगे लेके जाए. नो मैम, फाइल पे क्लिक मत कीजिए.
Go back.
गो बैक, मूव
And
टू
just-
कर्सर राइट साइड. मैम बराबर में उसके होम है, उसके बराबर में
There is
insert
home,
है.
there is insert, there is design, there is transition, there is animation, there is slideshow. Slide your
Huh.
slide. Yeah.
Yes.
From beginning.
From beginning. Yes, that's good. That's wonderful.
Good morning, sir. Sorry for the delay.
Yeah, go ahead, please. You are audible.
Yeah, I would like to present my study on effect of uncomplicated primary posterior capsular rhexis on cystoid macular edema. So how to switch to the next slide?
Just go to the arrow button, next arrow button.
I'm able to. Yeah, so we all know that cataract surgery today aims at achieving the best possible visual outcome, and PCO is the most common complication of cataract surgery that we see nowadays. So YAG cap that we perform most commonly is the treatment of current treatment of choice, but that is associated with certain complications like RD, cystoid macular edema, elevation of IOP, damage to the lens, intraocular inflammation, and hole. So PPCC has been employed to prevent PCO based on the theory that removing the scaffold for the migration of lens epithelial cells would provide a permanently clear optical zone. However, due to the breaking of the barrier between the lens capsule and the vitreous, there is also a theoretical risk of cystoid macular edema and hence decreased visual acuity. Through our study, we aim to assess whether this actually leads to significant macular edema. The study was done at a tertiary care hospital in New Delhi over a period of 2 years. It was a prospective comparative study done on 100 eyes of 50 patients. And we included the first group underwent phacoemulsification with PPCC in one eye, followed by phacoemulsification without PPCC in the other eye 1 month later to serve as a control. Baseline investigations included assessment of central macular thickness and central macular volume by OCT, which was done preoperatively and post-operatively at 1 week, 1 month, and 3 months separately for both the eyes. And all the surgeries were performed by the same surgeon under peribulbar anesthesia. The results, the mean age of the patients was was comparable in both the groups. The mean power of the implanted IOL was 20.4 diopters in group A and 21.3 diopters in group B. The mean central macular thickness and central macular volume increased in both the groups, but it was insignificant at all the follow-ups. However, the difference between the two groups was not statistically significant at all the follow-ups. Also, both the groups returned to nearly baseline values at 3 months. There was no statistically significant CME seen in any of the groups. Also, there was no difference in the incidence of intra-op and post-op complications between the two groups. So this graph shows the evaluation of CMT preoperative 1 week, 1 month, and 3 months, and the evaluation of central macular volume by OCT. So the maximum increase was seen at 1 week, and the values returned to almost baseline by 3 months. The mean preoperative BCVA was 0.6 in group A and 0.68 in group B, which improved in both the groups. And at 3 months, it was stable, and there was no statistically significant difference in visual acuity between any of the groups at any visit. So PPCC provides a clear visual access, facilitating early visual rehabilitation and reducing the need for Nd:YAG gap. However, due to the breaking of barrier between the capsule and the vitreous, there is a theoretical risk of CME. But as studied in our case, in our study, we found that uncomplicated PPCC is a safe procedure for preventing secondary cataract, as well as it has minimal or no effect on macular edema. So we propose that PPCC is a safe procedure resulting in long-term prevention of and with no effect on macular edema. Thank you.
To please invite the next speaker.
So I'm inviting Dr. Sonal Gupta to speak upon compare visual outcomes between trifocal and extended depth of the focus intraocular lens. Dr. Sonal Gupta.
I don't think she has joined yet.
Doctor. Okay. So shall we move to next?
Yes, sir, we can do that.
Yeah. So now I'll invite Dr. Hemendra Singh to speak upon.
Sir, Dr. Ilesh, Dr. Hemendra will not be presenting.
Dr. Deepak.
Dr. Deepak Mishra.
Yeah.
Okay, Dr. Deepak. Dr. Deepak Mishra will be the next speaker. He is going to speak upon the effect of cataract surgery on incidence and pattern of dry eye. Dr. Deepak Mishra, over to you.
Good morning, respected judges. I am Dr. Deepak Mishra. My EIS ID is 12337. There is no financial disclosure. As per introduction, we all are knowing that cataract surgery is known for the dry eye, and there are various factors identified time to time. So, but this dry eye is temporary. So I would like to, we planned a study to find out identify the incidence of dry eye in the cataract surgery, and then compare the pattern of dry eye and the phases in phaco and SICS. It is a prospective observational study done at Regional Institute of Ophthalmology on the 120 eyes at the last year between almost 1 year of the follow-up to April 19 to 20. All the inclusion criteria were cataract surgery patient planned for the routine surgery, and we excluded the possibility of the pre-existing dry eye or the patient with dry eye, corneal opacity, dysfunction, and extra. A proper institute ethical clearance and were taken from the Institute Ethical Committee and declaration of NSK guidelines were followed. We divided the group into two groups, and in group 1, we have taken SICS patient, group 2 FECO patient. We do pre-operative and post-operative Surmer's test, BUT, and ocular surface disease scoring based on the 12 objective questions, mild, moderate, and severe, and follow the patient at 1 week, 1 month, and 2 months.
Dr. Deepak.
Yes, sir. Sorry, sir. Anything, sir?
No, it's fine. Please go ahead.
Okay. From the observation and result, we have a slightly female predominance in the study, and the mean age was the 61 years plus minus 8. And the incidence of dry eye we find in SICS was slightly higher, 27%, and in FECO was 14.82%. This is the graph which shows how we have a decreased incidence of dry eye at 1 week, 2 month, 1 month, and 3 months. And these are the parameters in which we have find out what are the parameters for dry eye, BUT, Surmer's in SICS and FECO, and we have a significant finding p-value in both of them as we considered as dry eye. And this is the graph showing TUB, Surmer's, and ODI scoring. Here we have find out all are significant difference from the basic pre-operative to the maximum at the 1 week. And again, it comes to the normal. There is a rising trend becoming to normal at the end of the study. I am skipping the discussion. The major limitation of our study is that cataract surgery is performed by 2 persons who are in my unit. So there may be some individual variation by the surgeons, but we use the common technique and instruments so that it may be practical. The corneal sensitivity was not assessed, and we cannot do the post-operative dry eye, and the visual assessment was not done in this study. Now coming to the conclusion, the incidence of dry eye is higher in SICS as compared to FECO. The take-home message from this study is that the ophthalmic surgeon should aware of the dry eye problem, and they have to do the proper counseling and do early treatment, whatever tear substitute they like, add on in the post-operative care, because in most of the cases, the patient may have some problem, or after the surgery, it is difficult to explain them why this dry eye will occur. So proper counseling at earlier stage and more in the SICS is important. These are my references. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Alon.
Dr. Deepak, can I ask you a quick question?
Yes, sir.
Why the incidence of dry eye was more in the SICS, like because of the incision size, or there were other factors which were involved in contributing the high incidence of dry eye in the SICS group?
Sir, two things. One is the, as you said, the incision of the marking, and second is, sir, delayed wound healing. Because in the cases of SICS, there is chances of delayed wound healing, what we have compared as compared to FECO. That is, I think, is the more important factor as compared as marking.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Let's call upon the next speaker, the next presenter, Dr. Pari Desai. She will be presenting on evaluation of dry eye incidence after phacoemulsification, cataract surgery.
Not
Dr. Desai, you can start now.
No, not available.
Well, if Dr. Desai is not there, if she did not join, then let us call upon the next presenter, Dr. Sunita. Is she there?
Yeah.
Yes.
She will be presenting on the comparative evaluation of longitudinal US pulse, burst, OSIL, and OSIL IP modes of phacoemulsification. Dr. Sunita, please start now. All managers, could you please help Dr. Sunita to be there on the presentation side?
Hello, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Sunita, all okay with you?
No, sir. Actually, I am unable to find my. I didn't want to share.
Did you open your presentation first?
No, sir. Do I have to open that first?
First, you open your presentation, and then you can go to the share screen.
I opened it.
Dr. Sunita, start your share screen from 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock, green button.
Share content. Is it visible?
Yeah, now it's visible.
Yeah, you
Now
can
it's
go to the
visible.
first. You can go to the first.
Play size. Yeah. Play size. Yeah.
Good morning, all the judges. My topic for presentation is comparative evaluation of longitudinal ultrasound pulse in burst mode with continuous OSIL and OSIL IP modes of equal malsification. There's no conflict of interest and non-financial support. The study was conducted to evaluate and compare the efficacy of traditional longitudinal ultrasound in pulse and burst mode with torsional OSIL ultrasound modality, the continuous torsion equal emulsification, and torsion with the intelligent echo, that is OSIL continuous and OSIL IV mode. The parameters that were studied were cumulative dissipated energy, ultrasound time, effective fluid used, endothelial cell count postoperatively, and best corrected visual acuity. It was a hospital-based randomized controlled prospective study. A total of 240 cases were divided into 4 study groups with 60 each in pulse, burst, OSIL continuous, and OSIL IP mode. Pre-operatively, grade 4 dense nuclear cataract according to the log-scale grading system cataract were included, and pre-operatively best corrected visual acuity and endothelial cell count by scalar microscopy were evaluated. The Infinity Vision system was used with the uniform settings of 0.9 mm, 30-degree bevel, 20-degree bent Kelvin microscope used in all the groups with a vacuum of 450 to 350 mmHg, aspiration flow rate of 45 cc per minute, and irradiation per light of 110 centimeters. The power settings that were used in group A, that is the longitudinal pulse mode, were 60% power with a 50% duty cycle, 6 milliseconds on and 6 milliseconds off time, with a total of 83 pulses per second. In group B, that is the burst mode, a power of 60% with a burst width of 35 milliseconds, and subsequent off time to 0 was used. In the continuous OSIL mode, 100% amplitude linear torsional power was used, and in the OSIL IP mode, 100% amplitude torsional power with 10 milliseconds longitudinal pulse when 95% vacuum is reached, and torsional to longitudinal ratio of 1:1 was used. Interoperatively, the incision size was 2.8 mm, and a vertical chop technique was used for fecal emulsification of the cataract. The grading was confirmed at the time of chopping the nucleus into 2 halves rather than simply relying on the visual estimation pre-operatively. Parameters recorded intraoperatively from the matrices were cumulative dissipated energy, ultrasound time, and effective fluid use. Postoperatively, the parameters recorded were endothelial cell count and best corrected visual acuity on cost of day 1, 3, 7, and 30. Here is a graph. Here is a chart depicting the results, which showed that the mean CD, ultrasound time, and effective fluid use all were least in the burst mode. So the study individually, the cumulative dissipated energy was least in longitudinal burst mode, followed by pulse mode, then intelligent phaco, that is OSIL IP, and the continuous OSIL mode. And the results were statistically significant with a p-value less than 0.01. Here is the graph. Here is the bar chart depicting the same. The ultrasound time was again least in the burst mode, which was statistically significant, and there is a graph depicting the same. The effective fluid used was significantly less in burst mode again. And post-operative, there was no significant change in endothelial cell count and less corrected visual acuity in all the 4 groups. To conclude, the burst mode was most efficient in terms of CDN, ultrasound time, and EFE, which were the direct measures of efficacy. To explain this, the burst of ultrasound modality is used only when required, whereas in pulse mode, continuous OSIL and OSIL IP, there is significant measurable wastage of energy as it is repeatedly or continuously used when not required. In torsional phaco, though, the energy dissipated is only 0.4 in comparison to ultrasound longitudinal mode. However, it has to be used in continuous mode with higher power settings of 80 to 100%, whereas in longitudinal mode, the power used is usually 50 to 60%, thereby explaining the difference in the CD and USD in the results. Though interoperative CD and USD is significantly lower in longitudinal burst mode compared to OSIL IP, OSIL and pulse mode, however, it does not affect the postoperative visual recovery, thereby emphasizing the relevance of technique in phacoemulsification. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sunita. Well, that was a nice presentation. Could we call upon the next speaker if judges don't have any questions for her? No.
Sir, we have skipped the questions for all the participants. So what we do is we can collectively take their questions.
Okay. So let us call upon the next speaker, Dr. Parnika Parasar. Is she there?
No.
No, Dr. Parashar is not to be seen.
Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
Can we call upon other speakers, those who are not present? I think we should call them one more time. And if they are not there, then we'll mark them absent.
Yes, we'll mark them absent.
They are not yet joined. Dr. Sunal Gupta, not joined. Dr. Parnika, not joined.
Dr. Pari Desai also is not joined.
Pari Desai, yeah, Dr. Pari Desai, not joined, sir.
So there are 3 absent, Dr. Pari Desai, Dr. Parashar, and Dr.
Sir, what we can do is in this case, we can take question answers from the doctors who have already presented their papers because
Yes, sir. I think one more speaker is there remaining. Dr. Amreen has also not joined. So we have got Dr. Mamta Lakhna. She has joined. We can take her presentation and then we can go. That is the last speaker.
Yeah, we can do that. Sure.
You are there?
Yes.
Yeah, Dr. Mamta, you can start your presentation. She will be talking on clinical outcomes following implantation, a new intermediate vision enhancing monofocal IOL.
Sure, sir. Just give me a second. I'll be sharing my slides. Is it visible, sir?
Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect.
Good morning, respected judges and dear colleagues. My topic for today is visual outcomes and patient satisfaction following implantation of iHands IOL. I have no financial disclosure to make. Dr. Sri Ganesh and Dr. Sheetal Brar are consultant to Carl Zeiss Meditech. So new intermediate vision enhancing IOL, techniques iHands. It is based on the aesthetic platform and features continuous change in power from periphery to center, which provides a better depth of focus. And it claims to give a better intermediate vision, which is important in performing tasks such as using computer, viewing the dashboard of car, applying makeup, and playing cards, etc. These are the specifications of IOL. I will not go into the details. It is made up of hydrophobic acrylic IOL material, and it is a 13 millimeter total diameter with 6 millimeter optic. We performed a study, which is a prospective observational study. We enrolled 40 eyes of 27 patients. Inclusion criteria were healthy eyes besides senile cataracts, aged over 40 years, and the patients who were able to report for 6 months follow-up. Any ophthalmological abnormality were excluded. All patients underwent a thorough anterior and posterior segment examination. The uncorrected and corrected distance, intermediate and near visual acuity were the primary outcomes, while defocus curve ranging from +1 to -3.5 diopter was the secondary outcome. These are our results at 1 month and 6 months follow-up, which shows excellent intermediate uncorrected visual acuity at 1 month and at 6 months also. The distance visual acuity was also very good at 6 months follow-up, while Refractive outcomes were also excellent. Spherical equivalent at the end of the 6 months was minus 0.11 plus or minus 0.40. The figure A shows efficacy of the IOL, which shows 90% of the eyes were within 20/30 vision, while 100% of the eyes were within 20/40 vision. Figure B shows that there was no loss of the CDVA in any of the patient. Figure C is showing the spherical equivalent outcomes, which shows that 87% of the eyes were within plus or minus 0.5 diopter, while 100% eyes were within plus or minus 1 diopter. Figure D is showing the outcomes of cylinder, which were also good at the end of 6 months. The figure E is showing a comparison between a Technis 1 and Technis Eyhance IOL focus curve, which shows that Technis Eyhance has clearly better range for the intermediate vision, while Technis 1, which is a monofocal lens, it is showing that it does not have any intermediate range. These are our patient satisfaction result at the end of 6 months. Patient was satisfied for the intermediate vision at the end of 6 months, which did not have any, which was statistically different from the 1 month follow-up, because by the end of the 6 months, the glare, halo, and the night vision complaints were decreased in all the patients, while intermediate vision was also excellent at the end of 6 months. So other studies published data also shows that intermediate vision enhancing IOL, Eyhance IOL, shows better intermediate vision as well as good distance vision. So conclusion, in our early experience, implantation of Technis Eyhance IOL yielded excellent outcomes for distance vision with improved satisfaction for intermediate vision without any photic phenomenon in the patient, which is the main concern in multifocal IOL. So this IOL gave a good distance as well as intermediate vision, and patients have like 50 to 60% of the patients also were happy with the near vision. These are my references. Thank you.
Dr. Mamta, can I ask one quick question?
Yes, sir.
In your study, did you find any difference in the intermediate vision in the younger age group population? For example, for those patients who are younger, did you find any better intermediate vision or better near vision?
Sir, our mean age was around 64, so we did not have very young population also. Our 40 eyes were, the mean age was 64, so it was between 60 to 70 years of old patients. Mainly, all patients were professionally active, and majority of the patients were using computers, which they were very happy with the intermediate vision using computers.
Okay, thanks.
Right, sir. So what we do is we again check with the participants, the doctors, those who have not yet presented.
We should do a final call to them.
Yes, we need
Sonal Gupta, Dr. Sonal Gupta, not joined. Dr. Pari Desai, not joined. Dr. Parnika, Dr. Amreen. So we have got 4 absentees. Right, sir? Amrit, sir?
Yes.
Siddharth, Suresh, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, yes. You have 4 absentees.
I think we should conclude now.
And 2 are non-ratified members. And rest are ratified.
We can go to the question answer session, and then we can conclude.
Okay, I have a question for Dr. Padma Kurada, the first presenter.
Yeah, that's Dr. Madhukar Reddy who had.
Madhukar Reddy.
Reddy was there. Is he there? Are you there?
Yeah, he's there.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm here.
That was a nice presentation. I just wanted to know when you selected the IOL powers for these patients,
Yes.
do you choose emmetropia or slightly on the myopic side?
I choose between 0 to minus 0.5, means whichever gives you a slightly -2, -3, something like that, minus 0.2 or 0.3.
Okay. You did not
Slightly
deliberately aim at myopia, but
Yeah,
that
just
was how it came out.
a
Yeah,
little bit like what we normally do.
yeah, absolutely. Okay. Because slightly on the myopic side would give better intermediate or near vision as such.
Yeah, ultimately that's what the patient wants.
Yeah, but that would camouflage the results that we were trying to.
I understand, but not on the minus side, somewhere between, if suppose the emmetropia, the lens star shows say 20, and then the next result shows 20.5. So I would prefer on the minus side.
Right.
And Dr. Madhukar,
Yes, sir.
60% of your cases were reading N6. So
Yes.
these were now normal age group, or they were younger, like 60 years. What was the age group in your study? Mean age group?
Yeah, it was approximately 60 because younger cataract patients are fewer in number.
Okay, okay.
Sir, for Dr. Madhukar sir, for planning the other eye of the patient, did you prefer the same minus 0.02 or minus 0.03 or some micro monofocal like that? Or
Yeah, normally depending on the result of this eye, if the patient says my near is more comfortable, distance is not comfortable, typically for all patients I ask, how is the first eye? If they say my reading is better or distance is better, accordingly I 0.5 that way, this way I change. It's micro monovision.
Okay.
you do need to give some reading glasses, +1 or +1.
Yes, they do need reading glasses. All of them I prescribe reading glasses, but spectacle independence is more for intermediate. The main purpose was to avoid people demand a multifocal lens, but making them, driving friendly at night. So that's the purpose of choosing these Eye-Hans lenses, especially in driving population.
Dr. Madhukar sir, any experience with the Indian counterparts on the same platform of Eye-Hans?
Yeah, I have just started using some of these lenses, which IOCare company is making them. So I have implanted about 4 or 5 lenses. That's all.
Okay.
I had a question for Dr. Khushbu.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. I just was curious. Finally, as a conclusion, if you're saying that there is no difference
Yes.
in the astigmatism, right? That was your final conclusion in
Sir,
terms of. So the final level of vision is the same. Is that what I understand between a 2.2 and a 2.8?
There was with 2.2 mm the astigmatism was less, but the difference was not statistically significant. It was 0.46 with 2.2 mm and 0.5 with 2.8.
Yeah. So and did you always make the incision on the steep meridian?
Yes, sir.
All right. And one question for Dr. Astha.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Also, I just curious, what was the thought process of actually doing a primary PCC in uncomplicated cases? The aim was just to look at CME, or because the YAG rates were higher? What was the real reason? Because a lot of the present IOLs have YAG rates of less than 1%. So you are adding an additional component where you're breaking the barrier. So what was the thought behind that? If you're implanting a good lens, less than 1% of them will require a YAG. So you look that you're basically treating 100 patients for that 1% benefit, which if you look at statistical components, it's not a very good concept.
So basically, I work in a government setup, and the lenses that we as residents get to use in a phacoemulsification, we are probably doing YAG caps for about, I must say, 70 to 80% patients within a year of surgery. So, so this study I've done in my residency only, and I found it to be significant as well.
Okay, but you are adding another skill, and all the PCC was done by the residents, or was it done by your assistant?
No, so it was done by residents under supervision of a consultant. So.
All right, thank you. That's all from my side.
Okay, so doctors, do we have any other questions which would like to ask the paper presenters?
Not from my side.
Not from my side.
Okay, so we just request you, you can submit the results on the WhatsApp number which you have got in the office or the mail ID. And to be in sync with all the judges, we will just quickly take the names of the doctors who were absent today to present their papers. Dr. Sonal Gupta. Then doctor who was absent is Dr. Pari Desai. Then Dr. Parinika Parashar and Dr. Amreen.
Correct.
Right, sir?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay. So if any of the judges would like to give a concluding note to this session, please. Judges, would anybody would love to give a concluding note?
Yeah, thank you, everyone. I think that was a lovely session. Too many absentees, of course, but all the papers presented were really brilliant. And we look forward to see such new things, new thought processes being translated into papers in the near future. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Presenter.
Thank you very much.
So I
Thank
like
you.
to quickly take this opportunity to once again thank all our judges who have given their valuable time, as well as all the presenters, the doctors, to present their paper. Thank you so much for your time. You did an excellent job. So I'll be signing off right now from this hall for the first session. I'm MOC Himayat. Thank you so much. It was a great pleasure having you here. Thank you.